This is a CBS News special report. I'm Jericka Duncan. We are coming on the air because of growing unrest in the city of Minneapolis. Earlier today, an immigration and customs enforcement officer shot and killed a woman while she was in her SUV. Governor Walz, right there at the podium.
About this tragic event on national television. We have been warning for weeks that the Trump administration's dangerous, sensationalized operations are a threat to our public safety, that someone was going to get hurt. Just yesterday, I said exactly that. What we're seeing is the consequences of governance designed to generate fear, headlines, and conflict. It's governing by reality TV, and today that recklessness cost someone their life. I've reached out to Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, and I'm waiting to hear back. Let me be clear, Donald Trump and his administration may not care much about Minnesota. That's been pretty evident, but we love this state. We won't let them tear us apart. We'll not turn against each other. To Minnesotans, I say this: I feel your anger. I'm angry. They want a show. We can't give it to them. We cannot. If you protest and express your First Amendment rights, please do so peacefully, as you always do. We can't give them what they want. The hearts and minds of the people in this state are on our side. To Americans, I ask you this: please stand with Minneapolis. To Minnesotans, know that our administration is going to stop at nothing to seek accountability and justice. The State Bureau of Criminal Apprehension are working on the investigation. We have activated the State Emergency Operations Center. State Patrol and Minnesota National Guard leadership is connected with the Minneapolis Police Department, the St. Paul Police Department, Hennepin County Sheriff's Office, the DNR, and Minnesota's Homeland Security and Emergency Management. We have activated dozens of members of the State Patrol's mobile response team. And from here on, I have a very simple message. We do not need any further help from the federal government. To Donald Trump and Kristi Noem, you've done enough. There's nothing more important than Minnesotan safety. I've issued a warning order to prepare the Minnesota National Guard. We have soldiers in training and prepared to be deployed if necessary. I remind you, a warning order is a heads up for folks. And these National Guard troops are our National Guard troops. They're teachers in your community, they're business owners, they're construction professionals. They are Minnesotans. Minnesota will not allow our community to be used as a prop in a national political fight. We will not take the bait. We will continue to update you, Minnesota, as we get more information. Now I'd like to turn it over to Commissioner Bob Jacobson of the Minnesota Department of Public Safety.
Thank you, Governor. As the Governor mentioned, my name is Bob Jacobson. It is my honor to serve as the Commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Public Safety. First of all, I want to acknowledge the reason that we are all here. The loss of life is not anything anyone would ever want. We fully expect that the community will want to peacefully demonstrate their anger or frustration. Minnesota residents and visitors have the right to peacefully demonstrate. We recognize that demonstrations are often driven by strong emotions, beliefs, and certainly a desire to be heard. Our role is to help ensure everyone can express themselves without anyone getting hurt. The Minnesota Department of Public Safety's role through the Minnesota State Patrol is to ensure safety, protect constitutional rights, keep roads accessible, and above all, to prevent harm. Our top priority is public safety. Our focus is keeping demonstrators, community members, drivers, and law enforcement safe, especially during moments of heightened tension or uncertainty. Demonstrations must remain safe and lawful, particularly around roadways. We will join with our partners to support safety while respecting the right to protest. With that in mind, I'd like to share a few safe and lawful ways to demonstrate. Minnesotans can safely and legally express their views in many ways, including getting together peacefully with others in public spaces, marching or walking, not on roadways, making your voice heard through chants, speeches, and displaying signs, being present in public areas where pedestrians are allowed, gathering in designated or permitted areas, and these actions will allow people to express themselves while protecting the safety of everyone involved. Unsafe or illegal actions could result in fines or arrests. Certain behaviors create serious hazards that threaten public safety, disrupt emergency services, or put people at risk. These actions could result in fines or arrest. Demonstrating on or entering a freeway on foot, walking on highways, throwing objects, starting or setting fires, damaging property or graffiti, using illegal fireworks, displaying or using illegal weapons, reckless or dangerous driving, especially near pedestrians, and certainly assaultive, aggressive, or riotous behavior toward anyone. We all want definitive answers to what happened today. Our Bureau of Criminal Apprehension is working in conjunction with the FBI to investigate this morning's shooting. As you know, we don't comment on active investigations, but also keep in mind that this is an investigation is also in its infancy. So any speculation about what had happened would be just that. And we will not engage in speculation. With that, I will turn it back over to the governor. Thank you.
We'd be glad to take any questions. Yeah, and I can let General Schaefer talk about this. It so happens it's a training weekend. We've got about 7,500 troops in training at our sites, training sites across the state. What it is, and in the National Guard, you give a warning order, which is a heads up of something could be coming. That just allows people to think about what they would need, what it would mean to mobilize, what it would mean to put them in. And I could let the General talk a little bit about this. Obviously, since the summer of 2020, we had a lot of work done on teams being ready to make sure that civil unrest. And what that means, and I think Commissioner Jacobson was very clear, and I want Minnesotans to hear this from me. The desire to get out and protest and to speak up to this administration of how wrong this is, that is a patriotic duty at this point in time, but it needs to be done safely. And I think the commissioner simply just laid out some of those parameters. We can do that. This is the peaceful resistance that we need. Simon, you want to say a few things about what that means to have them on the ready?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Governor. So for the military, Minnesota National Guard is comprised of 13,000 soldiers and airmen. We live all across and work throughout Minnesota. A warning order is just an initial step to increase your preparations. The Minnesota Guard is always prepared to respond and support state agencies and the citizens of Minnesota. So what that means for us today is just some additional checks on equipment that is ready at all times, and maybe some additional phone calls to service members who might be activated, but no activations. We are embedded with our state agencies here at the Operations Center to just continue parallel planning in the event that we are needed to support.
Thanks, General. And I would make note, Mary, and to Minnesotans on this about the National Guard, they're there to protect you and protect your constitutional rights. These are our neighbors. They don't wear masks. They don't bust in from somewhere else. They're not here to cause hassles to you or what we saw today, the tragedy. Having them at the ready to make sure, because when we see these types of things happen, and we saw it after the murder of George Floyd, there's folks that want to cause chaos. There's the disruptors in it. And while the vast majority of those protests were peaceful expressions of their First Amendment rights, there were those that destroyed property and put people at risk. The National Guard is there to make sure that peaceful protests are able to be done, and that those that want to do the destruction are stopped from doing that. Yes.
I mean, what is your threshold for activating the National Guard? You're talking about large-scale demonstrations.
All right, we want to further explain the current situation there in Minneapolis. Earlier today, an immigration and customs enforcement officer shot and killed a woman while she was in her SUV. You can see some of that video right there, which is disturbing to watch. The Department of Homeland Security said she was blocking officers and the SUV was being used as a weapon. Eyewitness video appears to show the SUV driving away when the shooting happens. Earlier today, the mayor of Minneapolis said the ICE officer acted, quote, recklessly, and rejected claims that the officer acted in self-defense. Now, the mayor also accused federal officials of sowing chaos into the streets, and Governor Walz there saying a message for the president and Homeland Secretary Kristi Noem: we don't need you any further. You've done enough. CBS News Homeland Security correspondent Nicole Sganga is in Minneapolis. I know, Nicole, you recently spoke to Secretary Noem about some of the concerns that people in the community had, and she said that American taxpayers were grateful. What are we hearing from Noem at this hour?
At this hour, we heard from the Secretary of Homeland Security, who called what happened today an act of terrorism, which of course cuts against what we have heard from local officials here, including the mayor of Minneapolis, who called what the Homeland Security Secretary and her team put out regarding what played out today, quote unquote, BS. I will tell you, I'm here on the scene now, and I have seen and witnessed hundreds of protesters, including some very tense moments. ICE agents deploying tear gas, individuals who are crying, they are angry, they are yelling. They feel as if their hometown has been invaded by federal law enforcement. They are asking ICE to go home at this time. We should also point out right now, Jericka, that we are less than a mile away from where George Floyd was killed at the hands of police in May of 2020. And this is a community that remembers that moment, how raw it was, and is still hurting from it. And that hurt continues today. We know that the law enforcement presence within Minneapolis has grown 15-fold among immigration agents. In fact, right now, there are currently more than 1,500 ICE, ERO, or immigration agents deployed in the Minneapolis area. And again, that is 15 times more than you would see on an average day. CBS News has also confirmed per 2 U.S. officials that the agent who opened fire today was a member of ICE ERO. And you can see behind me, things have quieted down here. There is a growing vigil for the 37-year-old woman who died.
And officials saying she did not appear to be a target from ICE agents, but was there, obviously, as we saw in the SUV. Nicole, we'll probably come back to in a second, but let's go to senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe. I know the president recently made some statements about this, saying that these incidents are happening because of the radical left threatening, assaulting, and targeting our law enforcement. What more can you tell us in terms of the president's response, as well as Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, I know, spoken, and others are speaking out at this hour?
The president, a little while ago, Jericka, issuing a statement on his social media platform saying that he's viewed at least one clip, video clip of this incident, not the one that we played earlier, but a different one. And he said in part, quote, "The woman driving was very disorderly, obstructing and resisting, who then violently, willfully, and viciously ran over the ICE officer who seems to have shot her in self-defense." Depending on the angle that you've seen, that may or may not be how one might interpret it. He adds later the situation's being studied in its entirety, but the reason these incidents are happening is because the radical left is threatening, assaulting, and targeting our law enforcement. We should point out, part of the reason Nicole was already in Minneapolis is because the Trump administration in recent days has ballooned its federal presence and its federal scrutiny of Minnesota in the wake of attention given to years of allegations of fraud in various social services there in the state of Minnesota that had earned renewed attention from news organizations, including CBS Minnesota, CBS News, the New York Times, and several conservative influencers who were pushing this over the course of the holidays. So the White House and the administration, seeing the response to that now, has surged other federal resources and oversight into the state. They ticked through some of these a little while ago in a briefing with reporters. They're going to begin auditing Medicaid recipients in the state. The federal Labor Department is conducting a targeted review of Minnesota's unemployment program. The Agriculture Department's requiring Minnesota to conduct recertification for SNAP benefits. The Small Business Administration suspended nearly 7,000 borrowers amid suspected fraudulent activity. They're going to continue to focus on how federal dollars are being spent in that state. That's part of why you saw that 15-fold surge of immigration agents that Nicole was talking about. For now, the president only commenting specifically on the video clip. Undoubtedly, at some point, we may see some response from him, whether in writing or in person, to the mayor's calls for ICE to leave, for the governor's calls for no need for federal assistance, and we'll see where it goes from there. Jericka.
All right, Ed O'Keefe for us at the White House. Thank you so much. To recap, there is growing unrest in Minneapolis after a woman was shot and killed by an ICE officer earlier today. Now Minnesota Governor Tim Walz is calling for peaceful protests and says he does not want any help from the federal government. Our coverage will continue on CBS News 24/7, your local news, and full coverage tonight on the CBS Evening News with Tony DeCopel. This has been a CBS News special report. I'm Jericka Duncan.